I've been looking at the semi space. I think
Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Mwah. Hope you had lots of pie and good stuff. I've been looking at the semi space. The Philadelphia Stock Exchange Semiconductor Index, you're looking at about a 2.6% gain. Almost 29 of the 30 names are higher. And I thought it was interesting in a day where out of the Biden administration, they're proposing kind of more rules, restrictions when it comes to selling AI and chip-related companies to China. And what our analysis seems to say is that maybe it wasn't as bad as everybody expected. And so Lam Research, ASML, KLA, you've just seen many of these names higher.
You guys are talking about public markets, public companies. We saw the news just moments ago that Cargill is set to cut thousands of jobs globally after the largest privately held company in the U.S. missed its profit targets. Alix, you know this, they're the world's largest ag commodities trader, cutting 5% of jobs. They kind of play in everything. And I'm wondering, what kind of bellwether this is.
We also saw Tyson, Scarlet, also cutting about 850 jobs as well.
So you wonder how this will all fold into how the Federal Reserve and Fed officials specifically talk about the economy. Chris Waller spoke this afternoon, and he sounded kind of dovish.
Yeah, and we talk about those layoffs here. I just want to point out, Tyson, they've been laying off a lot of people for really the last year or so. I think going back to last year, in early 2023, they've shut down at least 6 different plants here. So some issues there in the food sector as we get the closing bells here in New York. The Dow Jones Industrial Average sitting this one out, down more than 100 points or 0.3%. The S&P 500, 6,047 and change, up 0.2% to a record high. The NASDAQ Composite and NASDAQ 100 each closing out the day at a record high, and the Russell 2000, we'll just call it unchanged on the day, right on the screen, but only fractionally, less than 0.1%.
All right, back to the big caps I go. The S&P 500, guys. Most names lower today, 180 to the upside. Scarlett, you had 320 names losing ground today, 3 unchanged.
Yeah, and that's reflected in the sector performances, too. Let's look at the IMAP. You have 8 sectors in the red. Utilities, the worst performers, down more than 2%. 29 out of 30 names lower, or I should say 30 out of 31 names lower. Real estate investment trusts and financials also losing ground, too. But your winners, the strong parts of the market, communication services, consumer discretionary, and info tech, and of course, those 3 sectors house a lot of those big tech names.
Yeah, we've seen that before, right? Like lifting up the overall market. All right, to the individual gainers we go. Supermicro atop that list. It is your top gainer in both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100, guys. It's up 28% off its highs of the day. At its peak was up 35%, but still almost a 29% gain here on the Monday close. We know it's been a tumultuous year for Supermicro. Today, a bit of a bullish day, to say the least. The company came out, said an independent review of its business found no evidence of misconduct, but recommended that the server maker appoint new top financial and legal leadership. So, again, the cycle goes on this one, but this was an update certainly for this one. Lam Research, as I mentioned, most of the names in the stocks were up today, and that included Lam Research, which is your second best name in both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100, up about 6.25% here. What's interesting is, again, that thinking that these new rules and restrictions on some of the semi sales to China in particular would hurt this group. But again, the analysis seems to be that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And so you saw this name and this group overall rally. And then one more, Tesla, up about 3.5% in today's session. You had at least 2 analysts upgrading the stock to buy from hold. That was Roth MKM. Stifel raising its price target to a street high. So they've got they raised it to 411 from 287. Stock closing at 357 and change. So anyway, they talk about investing in Tesla requires vision, patience, a willingness to accept volatility. But like I said, at least 2 names being pretty bullish on this one. So a good day for Tesla, at least if you're a bull.
Tesla had a really good month in November.
Yeah, there's that too.
By the way. Hey, some of the decliners today on my radar include Intel. I stole this one from Carol. It was higher for much of the session, but did end up closing lower. You guys know this already. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger forced out. The board lost confidence in his plans to turn around the company. It's just turmoil at one of the pioneers in the tech industry. The clash really came to a head last week. Gelsinger apparently met with the board about the company's progress on getting back market share and narrowing the gap with NVIDIA. That's according to people familiar with the matter. He was given the choice to retire or be removed. He chose to announce the end of his career at NVIDIA, said the people who asked not to be identified because the proceedings weren't made public. This thanks to our team out at Bloomberg News. Shares down by about 0.5% on the day today. Stellantis, another shakeup in the C-suite. Carlos Tavares out At Stellantis, it is the parent company of Jeep and Peugeot, among other companies. It's a surprise departure. And now Stellantis is without clear leadership. It's under pressure to halt a sales slide in the U.S., tackle those overcapacities in Europe, and then also demand for EVs waning just as Chinese automakers are expanding in the region. The company did appoint executives, including the boss of the North America division, to take over from Tavares as the automaker works to fill that leadership void. And finally,
how are they going to do that? I mean, don't they have? Yeah. I mean, what's the easier turnaround, Intel or a company like Stellantis?
I think Stellantis. What do you guys think?
Really?
Yeah, I do. What did you? Because we talked to Gabby Coppola about this, and she said they're already. One of the big issues was killing off the less expensive models of the Jeep that were super popular.
Yeah.
And, really going at the premium end of the SUV category. It turned out, that a lot of Americans can't afford cars at that end of the spectrum. And they're already announced like some cheaper prices for 2025, Gabby said. So they're trying to go back to the lower end of the consumer. I don't know. Intel's a tough slog. I don't know. Yeah. What do you guys think?
And they're both in structural issues, right?
Yeah.
Like one is the AI chips and the competitive landscape with NVIDIA, and the other is EVs and then how fast you transition. So they're both in these different structural changes within the market, which is quite interesting.
And then there's Boeing,
Maybe they should
too,
just
right?
switch places.
Sure, because
Yes.
Intel can make cars. It's
I'm
fine.
just saying. Who knows?
Hey,
else?
one more. There is
Go
one
ahead.
more. Oh, though you have earnings, Romaine. We still have earnings?
Yeah,
Is
we
that
have
happening?
earnings. Let's get
All
right to it.
ahead.
Zscaler, so we'll stay in the tech space here. Their adjusted revenue in the fiscal first quarter coming in above estimates, 70 cents a share. The street was looking for 64 cents a share. Sales at $628 million. The street was looking for 606. The guidance for the fiscal second quarter, though, causing some concern. A range on the revenue side of 633 to 635 million. The bottom end of that range is right about where the average of analyst estimates are. And as far as EPS, a range of 68 cents to 69 cents, the top end of that range below the average of estimates of 70 cents a share for the quarter. The shares, you see, moving lower by roughly about 3%.
All right, jumping into the press release, looking for commentary. Jay Chowdhury, the chairman and CEO over at Zscaler, says that they have growing customer engagement, strong sales execution, driving a solid first quarter, all metrics exceeding our guidance. The combination of zero trust and AI creating exciting new opportunities when we are well positioned to capture with our large and expanding platform, with our customer obsession, the world's largest cybersecurity cloud and an up-leveled go-to-market machine. We are driving strong growth. Shares down in the after hours by 5.3%.
All right, I just want to highlight here what's happening in the bond market, and just to circle back and sort of wrap up our market check of the day, because there was a lot of action in the bond market, particularly in the front end. Yields ended higher by about 3 basis points. We sort of trimmed, though, that move higher by Governor Chris Waller, commenting that he's leaning towards a December rate cut, absent a data surprise, and he says that rates still have some distance from their neutral levels, so sort of setting that stage for more cuts to come, guys.
All right, so let's get to some of the stories that caught our attention on this Monday. And this is for Romaine and Tim. In case you were wondering what to get, me, Scarlet, and Alix, turns out diamonds are on sale right now. Not exactly buy one, get one free, but De Beers has apparently cut diamond prices by more than 10% across the board. They are the world's biggest producer. They've basically said, I'm in, I'm out. We're not going to try and put a floor under the slumping market. I mean, it's been a rough market.
I'm actually very intrigued by this. I mean, not so much for the 10%, but just the idea that we kind of know that the big diamond companies have always found a way to keep prices elevated, and the pressure. I mean, we've seen so many stories about what's going on in some of these diamond producing nations. I mean, there just is no support right now for where prices have been.
But the lab-grown diamonds also hurt the
Exactly.
this market too.
Exactly.
That's the other thing, right? Gen Z is really into the lab-grown diamonds.
So post-pandemic slowdown, inflation, collapse in China's luxury market, and then you have the lab-grown diamonds. And Carol said she saw some recently.
I went into a jewelry store. I had something fixed. There's regular diamonds, lab diamonds, and then there's like something above CZ's. Like there's all these choices.
Yeah. What'd you get us then?
All I know is, don't you two dare buy us CZ's.
Well, you didn't know the difference, apparently. That's all.
Oh, yeah, you just put it in your mouth and you bite.
I was just going to go down to Canal Street and get you your gift.
All right, that's a wrap, guys. That'll do it for our Monday simulcast, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We do it all. We call it the closing bell. We will see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.